Here's every Pokemon that broke the rules or standard of what a regular or normal Pokemon is across the generations. With Generation 1, Eevee was the first notable Pokemon to do this. Most other Pokemon in the games evolved down one fixed path, but Eevee could become 3 completely different Pokemon depending on the stone that you used. The first branch evolutionary family in Pokemon. Eevee, of course, is an anomaly for many other reasons we'll get to later, but Eevee alongside Vulpix, Growlithe, Poliwhirl, Shellder, Staryu, Gloom, Weepinbell, Execute, and Pikachu are all the first stone evolution Pokemon in the game. Kadabra, Machoke, Graveler, and Haunter were the first trade evolutions, for a Pokemon that you needed another human person for to transfer and trade with to get their final forms. Whereas Pokemon like Porygon broke the rules in a different way, being the first ever Pokemon that you have to exclusively buy, in this case from the Game Corner, and that's the only way to obtain it. The fossil Pokemon are Pokemon that are brought back from extinction, technically Pokemon that are unlocked or obtained through a particular item. And a very overlooked entry here, which is technically our first entry, Nidoran, as Nidoran male and Nidoran female aren't 2 different forms of one Pokemon. They're 2 entirely separate species, with separate Pokedex numbers and separate evolutionary lines. They were the first Pokemon with gender differences, but as 2 completely different Pokemon. And Ditto, while it's debatable if it should be on here on this list, is the first Pokemon built around a signal signature move, in this case Transform. And later, it would become the near universal breeding partner for almost every Pokemon. Just better to include it here than not. Speaking of breeding though, Generation 2 introduced breeding, and that gave way for a whole new set of Pokemon. Baby Pokemon: Togepi, Pichu, Cleffa, Igglybuff, Magby, Elekid, Smoochum, Tyrogue. These were the first Pokemon you could obtain solely by hatching an egg, a brand new method to obtain Pokemon that reshaped the entire series. Togepi stands out amongst this list because it's the only baby Pokemon with no relative from Generation 1, and it was famously handed to you as an egg, the first gifted egg Pokemon in the series. Some of these baby Pokemon, notably Togepi, Pichu, Igglybuff, and Cleffa, were also the first happiness-based evolutions alongside Golbat, Chansey, and Eevee, as you needed to get their happiness up to evolve them into the next forms. And speaking of Eevee, Espeon and Umbreon were the first evolutions based on the time of day, Espeon in the day and Umbreon in the night. Tyrogue broke it in a completely different way, a 3-way split evolution based on stats. Higher attack than defense means it evolves into Hitmonlee, higher defense than attack means Hitmonchan, balanced attack and defense means Hitmontop. Trade evolution came back too, but with a twist. Steelix, Scizor, Slowking, Politoed, Kingdra, and Porygon 2 were the first Pokemon to evolve by trading while holding an item. Trading alone wasn't enough anymore. And outside of Togepi, every Pokemon I mentioned here in Gen 2 along with Blossom showed us that cross-gender evolutions were possible and that some of these evolutions could even be brand new split evolutions. For an entirely exclusive Generation 2 rule break though, Unknown broke the idea of a species being one design. 28 different forms may be a lot, but hey, people are very happy with the form changes we have in later generations, and Unknown was the first to do it. But without a doubt, the biggest rule or standard that Generation 2 broke happened to Pokemon that already existed. Because when Generation 2 introduced the Steel and Dark types, it went back and retroactively retyped old Pokemon. Specifically Magnemite and Magneton, Pure Electric into Electric and Steel, and we didn't know it at the time, but this wouldn't be the only time where this happens. In Generation 3, Wurmple took Eevee's branching evolution idea and made it into a gamble. It evolves into Silcoon or Cascoon, which further evolve into Beautifly or Dustox, but unlike Eevee, you don't choose. It's decided by a hidden personality value that you can't see or influence, so you basically never know. Feebas broke evolution completely. To evolve into Milotic, you didn't need to level it up or use a stone. You had to max out its beauty, a contest condition, by feeding it Pokeblocks. The first Pokemon to evolve based on something entirely outside that wasn't an item. Nincada did something that no other Pokemon has done before or since. Evolve it into Ninjask, and if you have a spare slot in your party and a spare Pokeball, a second Pokemon appears out of nowhere, Shedinja, meaning it's an evolution producing 2 Pokemon. This has never happened again, and we're not really including stats or abilities here in this video, otherwise we would be here forever. And while I'm definitely not including stats, Wonder Guard I think is worth mention as an ability because it practically makes Shedinja impossible to beat without the right type of move, and it also gives room to speak about other Pokemon that I think broke the norm, such as Slacking, who in Slackout have the first abilities to hinder a Pokemon rather than help them, a trait we see with a few other Pokemon in future generations. That being said, I do think Kecleon's ability is notable, as Kecleon was the first Pokemon whose type wasn't fixed. Its ability Color Change shifts its typing to match whatever move just hit it. Similarly, Casform was the first Pokemon to change form based on the weather. Sun, rain, hail, and still no sand though, but it was the first form-based change to have different types. And Spinda took Unknown's cosmetic idea to an absurd extreme. Every single Spinda has a spot pattern generated from its personality value. over 4 billion possible variations. The first Pokemon where essentially every individual is visually unique. Good luck seeing all of them, because they're not gonna. With Generation 4, you already know we're gonna talk a lot about new evolutions. Magnezone, Probopass, Leafeon, and Glaceon were the first Pokemon that evolved based on your location. Magnetic Field in Cornet, a Moss Rock or an Ice Rock, you just walk into the right place, level up, and only then do they evolve. Gallade and Frostless were the first Pokemon to evolve using a stone tied to a specific gender. The Dawn Stone, which only works on a male Kirlia or a female Snorunt, so a gender and an item together for the first time. Gliscor and Weavile introduced yet another method, leveling up while holding an item at a specific time of day. In this case, a Razor Fang or a Razor Claw at night. We're just stacking up all kinds of evolution methods now. I don't know what to say for Spiritomb, as it has one of the strangest evolution methods ever made. To get it, you had to talk to 32 different people through the underground, then interact with the specific tower. I don't know what you want to call this one, but it's there. But before we move on to our next Pokemon, I'm getting kind of hungry. Thankfully for us, we have a word from our sponsor, Tokyo Treats. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. This month, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. celebrate Japan's Tsukimi Autumn Moon Festival. Tokyo Treat is a fun and exclusive Japanese snack subscription box filled with limited edition Kit Kats, specialty flavored Japanese chips, seasonal treats, and occasional Japanese sodas that are only available in Japan for a limited time. Sakura Co. is a monthly artisan Japanese snack box that supports local Japanese snack makers, and each box comes with 20 traditional and authentic artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and special Japanese tableware. This month's Tokyo Treat theme is Moonfest Celebration, and with Tokyo Treats, we always eat the chocolate they give in the box, and this month, we got the Sasha Rich Strawberry Chocolate. It was so chocolatey and nice, and I loved it. We also had the Moon Harvest Cookie, and I love the flavors and design of it, just like how I love the design of both these boxes, really. With Sakura Co, the theme of this box is Autumn Moon Festival. The Tsukimi Lemon Cream Cookie was my favorite item from the roster, and all of this month's snacks paired perfectly well with this month's tea, the Golden Roasted Hojicha Tea, which I did happily drink while using this month's tableware item, the Tsukimi Rabbit Coaster, which I did love both the design and colors. Amazing stuff, honestly. Both boxes also come with booklets with allergen and dietary information as well as cultural facts. If you want to celebrate Japan, then you'll definitely get a box. Be sure to get your own box or get it as a gift for your loved ones so that they can experience Japan from the comfort of their own home. Use code HybridHero to receive $5 off your first Sakura Co box through my link, or your first Tokyo Treat box through my other link. Now, back to the video. Burming carried its environment with it, and when it evolved, the female cloaks decided Wormadam's type, while every male became Mothim. And Shellos and Gastrodon came in 2 different colors, depending on which side of Sinnoh you found them. Pink in the west, blue in the east. Same species, but different appearances based on the region. Might have been the catalyst for something else that we see in later generations, You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Rotom, I believe, is the first normal Pokemon to get its stats changed upon changing into different form. Earlier, I think the only Pokemon to have this was Deoxys as a mythical, but Rotom also gets exclusive moves in these forms. A first of many here with Rotom, probably because they were confused whether it should be a normal Pokemon or a legendary Pokemon, but it most definitely is a regular Pokemon. Rotom did also just stay electric and ghost in Generation 4 across its form changes, but the typings changed in Generation 5. Just like how Deerling and Sawsbuck could change in Generation 5, as they were the first Pokemon with seasonal forms. I wish we had more of these, honestly, but we're not getting those, so maybe I can wish for something else instead, like you hitting that subscribe button maybe? It would mean a lot to me. Darmanitan broke form changes mid-battle. Its Zen mode activates automatically when its HP drops below half, transforming it and giving it the psychic typing on spot. The first Pokemon to change form, and I think also gain a type just mid-battle. Karrablast and Shelmet were the first trait evolution Pokemon that had to be traded with each other to evolve. This is because Shelmet gives Karrablast its armor upon trading, which is the catalyst for their final evolutionary forms. A pretty neat entry, and despite having the biggest decks, that's pretty much it for Generation 5. The smallest new decks for Generation 6 has more entries. Generation 6 introduced the Fairy type, and with it, we have a bunch of Pokemon families who got reworked types. And of course, Sylveon is an anomaly as it evolves through affection, a brand new gimmick separate from friendship. Aegislash was the first regular Pokemon to swap forms based on a move, Meloetta being the first Pokemon to do so. Vivillon has one of the coolest variations in its pattern, as the pattern of Vivillon that you get in Generation 6 was literally based on your real-world geography. The different regions of the world had different Vivillon patterns associated to it. Inkay has maybe the strangest evolution method ever put in the games. To evolve it into Malamar, you have to hold your console physically upside down while leveling up. The only evolution in the series that requires you to manipulate the hardware itself. Pumpkaboo and Gourgeist came in 4 sizes: small, average, large, and super, and these size actually changed their stats. So the first Pokemon where physical size was a mechanical variant, which I'm sure was the mechanic that eventually led to alpha Pokemon being different from normal Pokemon. And Meowstic was the first Pokemon where the 2 genders of a certain species of Pokemon don't just look different, but they play completely differently, with different abilities and different move pools. And now we have the big one with Generation 7, Alolan forms, or regional forms. All of these old Kanto Pokemon returned with completely new types and forms based on the region they now live in. It's like they took the concept with Shellos and amped it up tenfold, but this set up regional forms down the line. Rockruff evolved into either 2 different Lycanroc forms based on both the versions you played and the time of day. But Rockruff also gained another ability in the Ultra games, Own Tempo, and with this ability, you unlock the ability to evolve into Dust form Lycanroc. The first time a new evolved form is unlocked via an ability. Wishy-Washy is the first strength and numbers transformation. It's a bunch of Wishy-Washy, but also just one Wishy-Washy. I don't know if this one's worth the slot, but hey, I want it to be safe. I think Mimikyu is also the first time a Pokemon move has translated into an ability, with Disguise being basically substitute. Again, just gotta play it safe so the comments don't get me, but comment section, do let me know if I missed any big entries, either till now or later on in the video. Oricorio changes its form by drinking nectar each tied to a different island. Fire, Electric, Psychic, Ghost. The first time consuming an item changed a type like this. A quick one and let's go, your partner Pikachu or Eevee broke a rule too. Unlike every other Pikachu or Eevee, these partners cannot evolve. They're locked, just like the Pikachu from Pokemon Yellow, but here in exchange, they get boosted stats and exclusive signature moves, ones that no other members of the species can learn. I would still never play these games though. Screw Let's Go. Generation 8 took the regional idea and pushed it one step further. Regional form evolutions. For the first time, a regional variant got its own evolution that the original Pokemon never had. Galarian Linoone evolves into Obstagoon. Same with Berserker, Mr. Rime, Cursula, Brunorgus, and Sirfetch'd. Sirfetch'd also has its own broken evolutionary method. You evolve Galarian Farfetch'd by landing 3 critical hits in a single battle. The first and only crit-based evolution trigger. Galarian Yamask evolves into Brunorgus through, I don't even know what really, but take at least 49 damage in a single hit, then walk under a specific Stoneark in the Dusty Bowl. Like, what do you even call this? A kind of ritual maybe? I don't know. This was also the first generation where Pokemon outside of Kanto Pokemon had any regional variants. Alcremie has the most cosmetic variety of any evolution in the series. You evolve Milcery by physically spinning the control stick while holding a sweet, and the direction, timing, and sweet you use produce 63 different possible combinations. The first evolution driven by a real-time motion input. I didn't actually know this until this video because I hate Sword and Shield. I'm learning so many new things about this game every day. Something I did know though is that Toxel evolves into Toxtricity into one of 2 forms, Amped or Low-Key, and the form is decided by its nature. Sinistee and Poltergeist introduced Authenticity? I don't know. There's a phony version and a genuine version, both of which require a different item to evolve, and that's about it. I still don't really understand the purpose of this form, but hey, they're there. And finally, we have Morpeko, which changes form every single turn automatically. Legends Arceus added even more crazy evolution methods. Weirder and Overcool were the first Pokemon to evolve by using a specific move a set number of times in a specific battle style. 20 uses of a move in Agile or Strong style, which means it's an evolution triggered by how you fought. Basculin evolves only into Basculegion after it takes a massive amount of recoil damage, around 300 points, without fainting. The lore says it carries the soul of Basculin that didn't survive the journey. Ursaluna evolves into Ursaring using an item, but only during the full moon. And that item, the Peat Block, is also insanely tedious to find if you're not lucky. But I really like the full moon evolution. I kinda wish we had more things like this. But the biggest break in Legends Arceus is that no Pokemon in this game evolves by trading. Every single trade evolution was given a new alternate method. Mainly the link cable item, but still dang cool. In Generation 9, Finizen evolves into Palafin via level up, but only while you're connected to another player through the Union Circle. This one was also difficult for people to figure out when it first came out. And Palafin breaks form changes in a way that nothing else does. Its ability, Zero to Hero, transforms it into a massively stronger hero form when it's switched out and brought back into battle, and it stays that way for the rest of the fight. This is the first switch out transformation. Tandemaus and Dunsparce share a strange new rule that I can only imagine was made for shiny hunters. Tandemaus evolves into Maushold as either a family of 3 or a family of 4, and Dunsparce evolves into Dunsparce with either 2 body segments or 3. Which one you get is random, roughly a 1 in 100 chance for the rare version. And again, why would they do this if it weren't for the shiny hunters? It has to be the only reason. Tatsugiri and Dondozo introduced something commanding. Tatsugiri's ability makes it leap into Dondozo's mouth in double battles, boosting Dondozo and directing it. I feel like this is an ability that we should mention for how strange it is. Gimmicks evolves into Goldango only after you collect 999 Gimmicks coins, a fetch quest associated with Pokemon evolution, and one that I hope they remove going forward because, my god, is it tedious. The Wiggly and Toadscool families were the first convergent species Pokemon that are completely different species from their counterparts, but one that look incredibly similar. Gen 9 also gave us Paldean and Tauros, a regional form with 3 different forms: Combat, Blaze, and Aqua Breed. And with Legends EA, we have old Pokemon who got Megas getting new Megas, showing that there's always new potential for older Pokemon. And Mega Floette, which is technically our first non-fully evolved Pokemon with the Mega form, even if AZ's Floette can evolve. That's every normal Pokemon that broke the rules and standard of Pokemon. But we have videos on the starters and legendaries in this regard if you want to check them out. Thanks for watching and thanks to all my members for supporting me this channel. Remember to subscribe and I'll see you guys over in the next video, alright? Later!